Master Flower Show judge. And I'm really very proud to be able to be here tonight to tell you all about flower shows. What's behind those beautiful, pretty petals and what a flower show is. But I first want to give due credit to my dear friend Beata Bolin, who is the techno person and totally in charge of all these beautiful prompts you're going to see on the screen, etc. So without Beata, I would not be doing this. So I want to thank her very, very much.
My pleasure.
So what is a flower show? Why are we doing this? And why do we go see flower shows? And I hope you've all seen flower shows in the past. In years in the past, we used to go to Boston Flower Show, but quite a few of us just went to the Connecticut Flower Show just last week. There are lots of flower shows around, and now that things are changing in our world, I'm hoping that you'll be able to have a chance to get out and see more flower shows. But just to help you a little bit, my little clicker is not clicking.
Not working?
No.
Okay.
So you can
there
be the clicker. Okay. Just a few little bits on Zoom etiquette. I think Beata had mentioned that before, and we're going to have you please enter your questions in the chat box, and they'll be answered at the end of the presentation, please. Thank you. Okay. Why isn't this working? Here we go. Did I do that? So what is a flower show? What is the purpose of a flower show, and why are they so much fun? So the purpose of a flower show is to educate club members and the viewing public. It stimulates a lot of interest in horticultural and floral design. It provides an outlet for creative expression, and it communicates what the NGC goals and the objectives are. So you're saying to yourself, what is NGC? NGC stands for National Garden Clubs Incorporated. This is a nationwide organization, and within the organization, many states, probably every state in the United States is a member of the National Garden Clubs. Again, their objective is very similar to ours. It aims to promote the love of gardening, floral design, and civic and environmental responsibility. And we help coordinate in the interest of the state and local garden clubs in the country and actually abroad as well. So the National Garden Clubs is the whole huge unit. Within the unit are the states. And in the state of Massachusetts, we are a federated garden club. We are actually second largest after California, if you can believe it. There are 170 garden clubs in the state of Massachusetts that are federated. That includes like over 10,000 people as far as their membership. That's quite a lot. The whole federation, the state of Massachusetts, is broken down into districts. And I know some of you that are in Springfield Garden Club know that we are part of Central South District in our state. So just a little background on that, so you can understand, because you will be seeing that word NGC abbreviation. It's not working. There we go. Well, we told you about NGC, and now I just want to tell you a little bit about what makes up an NGC show. So National Garden Club shows are made up of horticulture, floral design. Those are the required two sections that have to be in a show. You can also have educational exhibits. You can have what we call youth, which is reaching out to younger children in schools, and sponsored groups would be something like maybe the African Violet Society, Orchid Society, Daffodil Society, and you also can have botanical arts. But the main two things that you need to have in every flower show are horticulture and design. Some of the basic elements. The one huge element of setting up a flower show is it has to be staged by an NGC member club district state council. And so that, just as I told you in the beginning, we're part of the huge organization in the country, and our state belongs to the NGC, we're a federated club. Fresh plant material, that is a very, very much encouraged and emphasized. A show schedule must be written, and we will go over this a little bit more. As you can see, here's an example of a show schedule, which is the law of the show. Both horticulture and design divisions have to be included. It gets judged by NGC approved judges. We'll talk a little bit more of that. And they have a particular system of awarding that gets used, which makes it only just, fair. There are minimum requirements, and there are in our handbook, which is the Bible. And it will have everything you want to know about handbooks, about flower shows. And there are also, you can have specialty shows, which we did prior to COVID in the fall. We did a horticulture specialty show, which a lot of you do remember. So let's talk about design. Design is the knowledge of elements and principles of design is essential in creating any type of art form. So whether we're making a floral design, or you're creating a new garden, or you're a painter, or you're a sculptor, a design is a plan bringing order to an art form by using elements and principles of design to create beauty, harmony, distinction, and expression. And the elements and principles of design vary from one art form to the next. And as I said, beauty, distinction, expression, and harmony are all attributes of design. Several elements of design. We're not going to go into this in depth on this particular program, but all these elements of design, as you know, when you create, say, a new garden. Say you're, as I said, a painter or a sculptor. These are all different elements that you want to come into play. Principles of design: balance, contrast, dominance. And I'm not going to just sit here and read them all to you, because you can read them very well. So those are all part of the things that we all consider when we're getting into floral design. As I mentioned before, the schedule. The schedule starts everything. So the schedule, so when we start a new flower show in Springfield Garden Club, the first thing we think of is what time of year we want to have it. Do we want it in the spring? Do we want it in the summer? Do we want it in the fall? There are winter shows, and we've had winter shows in the past too. You want to have a catchy theme that's going to attract the viewing public. So 5 years ago, we turned 100 years old. We had a very active, busy year that year with all sorts of wonderful things happening each month. And I think the culmination was a wonderful show, Rooted in the Past and Still Growing. So because we haven't had a standard flower show since that of 2017, this is the tool that we decided to use tonight. So as you can see, a theme, a time of year that you want to decide to have the show. And the most important thing is the venue. We were very fortunate to be able to use the Wood Museum of Transportation over at the Quadrangle in Springfield. And it was an outstanding situation for us, and really a wonderful show. We all had a really great time. You're going to click. There we go. So there always is rules, right? So there's general rules for every flower show. And I just want to let you know that when we wrote this flower show, the handbook that we used was edited in 2007. Since then, and right around that time, a new flower show handbook, which was the one that I showed you, was put out, and that was in 2017. So the rules have changed a little bit. But they're all in this new version. But in the schedule, the rules need to be there. People need to know where the show is going to be, what time they need to bring their design. They need to use fresh plant material. They need to be, one of the big things in floral design is that it has to be the work of one exhibitor. There has to be the single exhibitor. Some shows allow you to finish the design or part of the design at home and bring it in. Some shows, they make you do the design right there at the show. But some plant material needs to be put in every design. So we'll jump over, whoops,
Yeah, when you go forward, yes.
Yeah. As you can see, there are, as I mentioned before, the show is judged. They're judged by a panel of judges, and there are 3 judges on each panel. And they evaluate individually, and they're ranked as the points show here. So there's always a first, second, third, and honorable mention. You know, some people say, why does it have to be judged? But you know, it's a learning tool. It's a big learning tool. And every time I've been a show, I'm always learning. I mean, sometimes we get blues and sometimes we get HM. So ends up being an encouragement to have a uniform standard of judging, as it says here. And it's a great evaluation of how you can look at the design itself. If you want to go back to the other slide, Beata, thank you, with the ribbons.
Yeah,
With the ribbons, yeah.
Mm.
So we saw this last week in Connecticut, and we see it every time we go down to the Connecticut show. We said we got to do this because it really it helps the viewing public. As we said before, it's an educational tool, and we want people to know. I don't want you to walk through a show and go, I have no clue what's going on, because the first thing you're going to do is you're going to ask somebody. And if it's a great show, they're going to hand you a flower show schedule. And then you're going to open up to page 1, and there's going to be the first class. And we'll see that in a moment. But also, this was a great idea because it gives you an example of the different awards that are given at the show. Thank you. And then we talked about the point scoring and the standard system of awarding. Okay, and we also, as we started with the picture with all the different ribbons, the schedule will tell you if there's top exhibitor awards being offered. For example, in designs, there can be a designer's choice award, and the designer has the capability of choosing what kind of plant material he or she wants to use. You can have a table artistry award, and that is given to a table class, which you'll be seeing further in the slides. Or you could even have a petite award, and that is also something you'll be seeing for little small designs. And as we get in, you'll see more about horticulture awards and educational awards. Thank you. So, time to go through a show. So this was our show back in 2017, and boy, the time goes by, but it was a wonderful, wonderful occasion. And I must say that I think everybody that was involved just truly loved the show. So the most important thing when you're walking into the show is the way it's presented. Make it appealing to the public when they walk in. A beautiful floral design that kindly Flowers made that for us, which was just wonderful. And our beautiful artwork and signage that Jamie Hall always provides. So, and here we are telling you to come on in. So the things that you want to look for, as I told you, you have your schedule in your hand, and then you're going to walk in, and then it is really important to look for the signage. So for example, number 1 is first. So design division 1, and you want to go that way and follow the arrows. And then if it's a great show, and most are, it's going to say, like the sign on the left, class 1, it's going to give you the title that we put to class 1, and it's going to also tell you the kind of design that the designer was asked to make. It's also going to give you the requirements of the size of the space that they had, and the kind of, if it's fresh material, dry material, or in this example, and we try to do this most of the time, fresh and or dry plant material. So fresh material, totally fresh. Fresh flowers cannot be treated. They cannot be painted or tainted in any way. Dry material, painted, dry, you know, can trim it, you can do anything you want. So as you can see, with the title of Rooted in the Past and Still Growing, we decided with the 100 years for our anniversary that each class had a title for each decade, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, and really just made it a fun show. So here it is. We had the Roaring 20s, the Art Deco, and the Vintage, and this is just one section. And don't get all, you know, upset about, oh, I can't remember all this, because it's all going to come in time. And this is, I'm just walking you through what we did for our show, and we're going to show you some lovely pictures now, examples. So our first class, number 1, the Roaring 20s, a design freedom of style. That means the designer was capable, able to make any design that he or she decided to do. She could use fresh and or dried plant material. It always gave them the dimensions of the object they are going to put their design on. There was always exhibitor meetings before flower shows. So exhibitors can go in and see. She knew that this person is a she. A dear friend of mine, Sarah Taylor, this incredible design, but she could see that there was a brick wall behind her. Sometimes that's something to your advantage. Sometimes you might use that and incorporate with the kind of colors that you use, but a lot of times you just kind of just block it out. We also emphasized here, we wanted to show you that this was a blue ribbon winner. So the blue ribbon is there, but she also got that wonderful Designer's Choice Award. Designer's Choice meaning she could choose any kind of plant material or dried or fresh that she wanted to use. I'm gonna try it again.
Try again. See if, yeah.
My little
Okay.
arrow wasn't
Down
working before.
Works. Okay.
It works. Whoops, too
far.
fast. There we go. Another example of a design freedom of style, a line design, Roaring 20s. And on these pedestals, you also will have, after the show is judged, the name of the designer, the ribbon that the person has won. It will list the plant material that the designer used, which is really helpful because you can sit back and go, oh, I didn't know those were calla lilies. Oh, isn't that interesting? She used dried blah, 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 whatever. So now we're in class 2, Art Deco, the 1930s, a traditional line design. Another blue ribbon winner. A beautiful Art Deco traditional line design, zigzag. And you can just see that this person used minimum plant material in a really interesting container. And as we get on with the process of talking about flower shows and entering flower shows, you'll learn about one of the major component elements, principles of design is balance. You don't, when you look at this design, her in proportion and scale, her design container is not too large for what she's doing with her plant material. Another beautiful traditional line design, a symmetrical line design. As you can see, this person has equally placed material on either side of her line, goes down the center and either side. Sometimes you can see asymmetrical designs, line designs. So then we went further. Class 3 was the vintage 40s, and we decided to do an all green design. Freedom of style. So meaning they could decide it didn't have to be a traditional design. It could be a creative design. It's up to the designer. And this really gives them a lot of leeway. Again, it says fresh and or dried plant material, the dimensions of the pedestal. But look how interesting. And they incorporated the green gourds. So it just had to be green. It didn't have to, didn't have to be flowers. It was foliage in this case. Here's another really interesting one with the use of the green apples in the container. And this person really utilized their space. Again, they knew they were going to be underneath almost that stairwell and with the brick wall behind them. Really important to see where you're going to be. But look at how different this is than the first green design that we saw. Beautiful use of green foliage. And this is another interesting one with a lot more use of plant material from the outdoors. Okay, so we moved on and now we're in a different section. And our section is about tables and table designs, which are so much fun. And a lot of people, especially when they're beginning, when they see tables of any sort, they want to enter one. So we have various, you can see them all here, and I'm going to show you pictures because I think they speak better than just the words. Glamorous 50s. This table design section was eligible for table artistry. So the Table Artistry Award would go to the blue ribbon winner in the class. And this was a functional table for two. In other words, it means that you or I could sit right down to that table, and it is used as a functional table. A finished design. Her components are lovely, and they're in keeping with the style of the glamorous 50s. It is well balanced. There's really beautiful flow. And as you can see, she has a finished design, but it's not a huge design. It's in keeping with the size of her table, because she only has so much space. Another lovely glamorous 50s design, a whole different look. As you can see, it's fun to play with these. And anytime somebody enters the show and says, I'm doing a table, I always say, put a table up in a room. This is what I've always done in the past. Put a table in a room, set it up, leave it alone, go back and forth to it and keep playing, because it's a lot of fun to keep looking. Okay, we got up to the 60s and we decided to do little trays. The trays were provided by the committee. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes it can be the exhibitor can decide to bring her on. It depends on what the schedule says. So that'd be something they would look for. A totally different look here with a more finished traditional design, whereas the other one was more of a creative design. And then the last table section that we did a functional table. Again, a table where you could, but an alfresco style. And if you all know what alfresco mean, it's a picnic. So this was really staged beautifully. The room was quite large. If you've ever been to the Wood Transportation Museum with the plane that's hanging up on the rafters there. And we had staged these on little card tables that we had little boosters underneath, little risers. And they're quite lovely and very effective. And, you know, a whole different look for the same thing, groovy 70s. Now we're getting into the petite designs. The petite designs, again, in the schedule, it will tell us what is available for size. So petite designs can be as small as 3 inches, really, or as large, no larger than 12 inches. The way you're going to know that, again, it's going to be stated in the schedule. So in the schedule, we mentioned to them they were 8 by 8 by 8, fresh of dried plant material, staged on a section of a table. You'll see a picture in a minute. And they were given little foam board, little units that they could put their designs in. So here we are. These are 8 by 8, lots of fun to do. But again, these are really when the elements of the principles of design really come into play, because you want to make sure that the 8 by 8 is not too overwhelming for the space. You want to make sure that it's not too small. It's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. This is a lovely all foliage petite design. Look at all the foliage. Pretty much I could look at that and it looks like everything from her yard. And actually, I think it was. Another one, Forest Park all foliage design. And as you can see, this is the way we staged it. We had an 8-foot table. They all were given sections of the 8-foot table. The measurements were given to them and they could utilize their space. Sometimes you can take that foam board that's given to you and you could put background colors, as you can see on the left two, the blue and the gold. And it's very important when you're staging a show that the flow of the show is really lovely for people to walk through, that they're going to walk through, and the signage is great so they can understand. It flows along with the schedule, the colors and the uniformity of maybe tablecloths that you're using on the tables and for certain designs are the same. And if your show was evaluated, like many of ours have been, these are some of the criteria that the evaluating judges will look for. So in a flower show that many clubs have, one of the important things to do when you're writing the schedule is you want to think about the kind of people that are in your club. We are fortunate to have a lot of designers that are well-heeled, and they do beautiful work, and they have done a lot of different work. And then there's a lot of beginners too. But that's where we all start somewhere. And in many of the shows that we've had, we have what they call a novice class. So a novice class can only be entered by someone who has never won a blue ribbon. So it gives them an incentive. So here again, here is an 8x8x8, and this was called the Storage and Herb Garden, so it had to incorporate 2 herbs, at least 2 herbs. But in the schedule, it'll tell you all that information. And when the designer brings his or her design into the show to be placed, it is up to the classification chairman to look at that design and say, whoops, you went too big and it's larger than 8x8x8, because you will definitely be penalized. But it's up to the classification committee to catch that before it gets placed in the show. Another little, aren't they sweet? Another example. And last but not least, in design, another exciting thing to do in a show, which we've done many, many times, is to have an invitational class. We did at the show. It was amongst all the different transportation modes in the beginning part there of the Wood Museum, and 4 incredible designers. They were all judges, and they don't have to be from Massachusetts. You could reach into Connecticut, Rhode Island, whoever wants to came and did a creative design. And these are really the wow statement. So looking ahead into the future. So that kind of takes you into design. So horticulture, let's not forget about horticulture. It's so fun. Horticulture, again, there's rules. And the one big important thing about horticulture, it has to be grown by the exhibitor. It's not like you look over to Beata's fence and say, wow, look at that thing she's growing, and I'm going to grab it and I'm going to put in the show with Suzanne Reed's name on it. No. So it has to be grown by the exhibitor. The exhibitor needs to have it in his or her possession for 90 days, because we can all go to the nursery last week and bring in something looking really great. It also will tell you in the show if pieces of branches are put in the show, how long they have to be. So you're probably saying pieces of branches. You'll see in further slides here that there might be evergreen branches, and we will provide bottles, and they will be placed in the bottles, and then people can. No, that's okay. Don't worry. So here we go into Division 2. Division 1 was design. Division 2 is horticulture. And in the design Division 2, a lot of top horticulture awards were given. Let me just step back a minute to just say the overall top exhibitor award for design is called Designers Excellence. And that's one of the top awards. And then this is the award of horticulture excellence. So here we go again, the schedule, section A, catchy titles. It's October. It's the middle of October. We didn't have any frost. Can you believe it? We were so lucky. We had incredible horticulture. So it's, you have to think of the time of year, because yeah, even if we had a frost, you can still have some of these left. There are a lot of ornamental trees and shrubs that we showed. There were a lot of houseplants, but you have to think about the time of year and to think about the type of growers that are in your club. So this is just an example of some of them. And there we are exhibiting the last blooms of summer. So this was in the hallway right when you come into the Wood Museum. We utilized this, it was a tight space, but we made it. But as you can see, we had the same burlap covering on the table, utilizing uniform ribbon divided amongst the tables. And again, beautiful flow. This section was eligible for the Award of Merit, which would be one of the top of a 90 or above. There's some more perennials. Look at that, October 19th. Can you believe that? Just beautiful. We were just so lucky. As you can see in these pictures, The other important thing I neglected to mention is that they need to be properly labeled with their binomial name, genus and species. So you can't just put in hydrangea. You could, but you're not going to get a top award. The ones that are properly named are the ones that are eligible for top awards. And it's also a great educational tool because we all know what a hydrangea is, but it might be nice that you might say hydrangea paniculata, or you might have a different variety of rose or lots of other things. Okay, so make sure your labeling is proper. So the labels will be a question you might be sitting there asking is, did they see that it was Suzanne Reed's specimen that came in? And the answer to that is no, because even in the design section, we have cards. It'll have it'll state the title, the type of design, the type of plant material used, but the names will not go on for the viewing public until after the show is judged. The same thing with the cards that you see on the tables, the names will be turned under, so nobody sees the names until the ribbons are put on. Okay. Here's another wonderful section of Autumn's Glory, which we had some beautiful buried ornamental trees and shrubs. This is when I was talking to you about single branch, no more than 30 inches. So that would be again in the schedule. And as you can see, all these bottles that we've collected over the years and we use for our shows. And so it will also tell you, because sometimes some shows do not provide bottles. Most of them do, just to keep them uniform, but it will say bottles provided by the committee. And so you just need to bring the specimen in, labeled properly. Another great Springfield forest. We had needled evergreens, broadleaf evergreens. So this is mid-October. So this is why we decided to have, the appropriate horticulture for that time of year. And some of our top award winners, a beautiful begonia that's on the left. And I got to tell you the name of this one on the right. Acuba japonica. It's a shrub. We have been struggling with that. We finally figured it out today. And another top exhibitor award, as you can see, and Grower's Choice Award on the left with the begonia. One thing that's important when you have things in pots, that first of all, the schedule again will state how big the pot should, the minimum and the maximum size of the pot. If it exceeds it, it will be disqualified once classification once you bring your plant in. The other thing is cleanliness. Cleanliness. Those pots need to be spick and span clean. No dirt coming over the edges, no salty crust on the sides. And that goes a long way too for floral design. Say, for example, those table designs that we saw, and they want beautiful tablecloths, and they are particular that you don't want to see wrinkly tablecloths. You will get knocked down a few points. So it's just, you really want to be proud of whether it's a design that you've done or your beautiful begonia, or in this case, this japonica that you grew. I don't remember who grew that. On the left, our dear Janet Dolder won this wonderful a top award, a horticulture excellence and Grower's Choice. And to the right, that was Patricia Hambley's. What is that bad? I don't remember what that plant is, but look at that thing for the middle of October. Just beautiful. Come on, little thing. I think you might have to. There we go. Okay. Whoops. No, go back one, please.
I can't go back yet.
Okay, I got to go back. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Winter pleasures. Again, we're in October. Everybody pretty much has houseplants. That's another thing to consider when you're thinking about the type, your group and the type of people that you have in your club, that you want to be able to utilize plant material that perhaps, not everybody has a garden. So they might have beautiful houseplants, and they sure did. Look at those beautiful begonias flowering, Christmas cactus on the left, beautiful, just beautiful. And once again, you want to make sure that they're clean and neat and they're properly labeled. Yeah. So one of the last divisions that I want to talk about briefly as special exhibits. And this is the educational section, another educational part of the show. As I told you in the beginning, only design and horticulture are required. But if you're going for a top award in a show, special exhibits are required. But they're wonderful. They're another educational source. This was a great educational exhibit called Attracting Birds with Bushes and Berries. The exhibitor is given the space. It's up to him or her to decide on the theme that they do, but it has to be an educational type of thing. A little bit of plant material must be there. It's not a finished floral design, but as you can see, she has some nice plant material that birds might enjoy being around. And here was another one, and this was on one of the community garden and children's gardens that we work with. And this one was on lilies. Really nice. So last but not least, why are these done? Flower shows, so much fun. Flower shows give you the opportunity, as you can see, to express yourself in whether it's in floral design or in horticulture. All the proud horticulture I'm growing in my home, or the fact that I love to just put flowers together and see what I can create. It brings people together. It makes them happy. This is supposed to be fun, people. It's not supposed to be stressful. We try to make it easy. We want to be able to engage as many club members as we can in doing a flower show. And the more help that we get, the easier it becomes and more fun there is. Everything comes with time and patience. So I hope that you will start thinking about joining us on times when we might have a floral design group, and get your hands kind of dirty with us and try to practice. And practice what makes perfect. We all started somewhere. When you get the balance right, the rhythm will just flow. Okay. I thank you so much. And at this point in time, we will have a time where you can ask some questions, and please, anything you want to ask, I'll do my best to answer. And I hope you've all learned a little something, and stay tuned for part 2 someday.
Okay. If you have questions, would you enter them into the chat, please? Not everyone has a video on, so we can't see you if you're raising your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Comment. Beautiful job, Suzanne. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Well put together.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions, people? There's got to be something. Come on. I didn't cover everything. I hope you enjoyed the way we set it up, because, it's been quite a few years since we've been able to have a standard flower show, and just being able to, just utilize whoever knew we would be doing this, walking through our old wonderful show, which I want to tell you, we did get some top awards for. We were very, very proud of that.
So there is a question, 2 questions. What was the one, Vanna asked, what was the most fun you ever had?
What was the most fun I ever had in this show, Vanna, or in other shows? I'll just, what did she answer? Yeah, did she answer me? No. Okay, what's the most fun I ever had in flower shows? I don't know. Every time we put it together, it is a lot of work. I'm not going to say it's not. Anything that you do well and present into the viewing public, it is going to be work. But the camaraderie, sometimes it brings tears to my eyes, honestly. The camaraderie that we felt in the last shows that we had, the Rooted in the Past and Still Growing, even though Jamie and I looked at each other and said, we're never doing this again. But then a couple of years later, we did the Horticulture Specialty Show, and that was another just wonderful show. And the camaraderie that we had and the unity with the club just surpasses. I mean, I just think that's the best way I can describe it. And I'm just so proud of everybody, because we've seen people go from never doing design to starting to get into floral design group. I got a lovely message from Mary Benduveris this winter and saying, thank you. I never would have done this together and be without Floral Design Group. And there she had her beautiful table set and just, different things that she's trying. And even though it does get judged, but it's learning, it's no big deal. Just think anything, from the figure skaters that we saw in the Olympics to floral design, everybody, it's a learning tool, and that's the way I look at it.
We have a couple of other questions,
Yeah.
Suzanne. How do you choose your flowers for a particular design, and where do you purchase your flowers?
Okay, good question. Unless the show tells you that you cannot use fresh plant material from the outdoors, we had a little bit of a situation which we honored at the museum, because we were so thrilled to be able to use that space, but we had to be careful of making sure that plant material that might have come from the outdoors, that you never know, there could be bugs, right? So, but there is a way, and then even with Festival of Flowers, they tell us that if you use something, a branch or something from the outdoors, to put it in a trash bag and seal it for so long, and you'll be able to use it. I think what I do when I first start, I look at the schedule and I look at something that I want to do that I maybe haven't done before. I think it's always good to challenge. So sometimes I just like to do what I like to do. Like maybe I want to do a traditional design. The next thing I do is I go home and I start thinking about a container. And there's a lot of us that have containers that we share amongst each other. But I think that's another good thing. And then I'll start going, I'll go to the wholesaler. We have an opportunity to go to the Springfield wholesaler, which has been really a huge asset to us, and just walk around and look at the colors and see what's available. But you also have to be careful that, say, your schedule goes out, I don't know, in January, and your show's not till May, because what's going to be in that wholesaler in January is not going to be the same thing as what's going to be in May. So I hope that answers that question.
There are a couple of others.
Yeah.
Several good ones. Are there ways to be involved? This is from Janine. Are there ways to be involved in a flower show without creating an arrangement or providing plant material?
Okay, when you say no providing plant material, Janine, you mean not even putting entering horticulture?
Without, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, just
I think
to
there
be
would
involved.
Yes, there are many. First of all, putting a schedule together. Doing the graphics for a schedule, huge, putting all this material together, which we love, because there were so many new members, and because of COVID, we haven't been able to be together to really know, like somebody say to me, oh, I used to do that for my job. Janine just put the most incredible website together for us, and I know it's because of the kind of job that she had. The other thing that is really great that you could participate in is staging. As you looked around that room, there was a method to our madness. We had to get, pedestals from the museum. We had to think about tables. We had to think about covering. We had to think all of those things. Signage is huge. Yeah, so those are some of the big ones that we could do. And even looking into awards, a lot of times I've done it just because I'm a flower show judge and my sidekick isn't around anymore. She dearly moved to North Carolina. So I don't have Sarah up here anymore. But just, learning about participating, giving awards, and how you can order the awards and help in that respect too. Yeah. Hospitality for the judges. We always give them a lunch. So that's another way.
A couple of other questions.
Yeah.
How do we support first-time entrants?
Good question. Okay, so I think, as I said before, the novice class is really helpful, but I think that comes down the line. What I would like to do, and I think a lot of us, our goal in the club, as time permits us now to be able to be together more, is to have floral design groups. And in the past, what Sarah and I tried to do was have floral design groups often, which we're hoping is going to come back. And we also, if the show was, say, in the next month or two, we would encourage those people to bring in their piece that they're thinking of doing. Or I'm always around, so you can come over to my house and say, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the container I'm thinking of using. We can do small groups of just beginners. if we see that there's quite a few people that are in that kind of period that they haven't done any floral design, we will certainly try to help them. I know through the Federation as well, and I can check with Beata about that, that I think that they're offering a little bit more through Zoom. I mean, if anything good came out of COVID, it was Zoom. And it really gives us the opportunity. There's a lot, because we are a federated garden club. There are many classes and courses that you can take. Sometimes people don't want to get in the car to drive, but you know what? It's in the daytime. And if you're retired, you've got a lot of great time ahead of you, and take a friend and go to some of these wonderful design programs that the Federation offers, which are basic design programs to learn.
Some more questions.
Yep.
How
Thank you.
does the club decide what size pots horticulture plants are grown in? Also, nice job, Suzanne.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So again, the biggest thing is when we decide what size pots are going to be used is the space that you have available. As you can see, and you've been over to the Wood Museum, when you walk in the door, that's what we had. You know, you can only put so many tables in there, so you don't want to have huge containers like this and then little teeny 10-inch like that. So you kind of go, you know, you kind of think of that as a big feature. You know, this past week when we were down in Connecticut, if you've ever been, make sure if you've never been, make sure you go next year. It's a fabulous flower show, and they did have design, horticulture, everything. It is really a wonderful example. There is another flower show, if you have time to go, that's going to be in Rhode Island. And if you want any more information about that, please let me know, because I'll give you the information. It actually falls the same weekend that our Festival of Flowers, but you won't be at Festival of Flowers every day. So you could probably maybe go down into Rhode Island. And it's great. The more that you expose yourself to a show, the better it is. So getting back to the size of the pot. So we usually think about this, you know, the space that we have available, and just a good, normal, average size. I think it's best. I mean, when you have the big shows, as I was saying in Connecticut, they had the space. It was a huge space. So they could utilize, they could have like a 12-inch or a 15-inch pot. But I sometimes think it's better to have something that's a little bit easier to handle as well. And another thing that we did at our horticulture specialty show, which I really think enhanced the horticulture, which I'm sure we'll use again, we had risers. Because sometimes when you have container grown, certain things, you know, combination plantings and stuff, it's nice to have things elevated, and the judges love that. Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. Can members of the sponsoring organization judge?
No. You need to, as simple as that question is, it's not simple, but no, you need to be an accredited flower show judge in order to judge. So it goes accredited, and then after so many years life, and then after so many years master. You will be, in order to be able to judge a show, you need to go to flower show school. And flower show school now has 4 courses. It's offered by the Federation. One's coming up in April, and we have 2 of our members that are very happy to enter, are going to flower show school. And if you need any more information about flower show school, I encourage you to let me know, because I'd be happy to help you there. But no, the panel is of 3 accredited judges. One of those judges can be a student, because she or he is learning to become a judge. But I can't say unfortunately, but no, it has to be, you need to have the accreditation in order to be able to be a judge. Yeah.
Unless there are other questions, I think that's everything.
I hope you learned something tonight, everybody. Thank you. And thank you so much for your time. And I hope you will, we really tried to let you know, either through the Iris Peddler on our website. Please view the beautiful website that Janine Boland has put together for us, and just emails that we keep getting out, so that you know about these flower shows. And a lot of them, they're not far away. Or there was just a wonderful flower show this past fall that several of us entered. It was right at Tower Hill. That happens every other year. And just a little preview, we, meaning Springfield Garden Garden Club will be having a flower show in May of 2023. So more to come. So thank you for your time and your patience and enjoying coming tonight. And I thank you so much.
And just so everyone knows, we have recorded it and we will be posting this on our YouTube.
Yeah.
So that if you have an interest or want to share the information that Suzanne shared with us, thank you so much, Suzanne. You did a
Great.
beautiful job.
Great, thank
Yay.
you. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye now.
Suzanne. Bye.